I'm Josh with Waupaca Community Media. We're back again. Aaron Jensen say Waupaca and Ron Sari from the School District of Waupaca. Hello, guys.
Hey, Josh.
We talk a lot about grants. We've got Greg, the grant writer, but we're going to take a look at another aspect. We've also got a local organization, the Waupaca Area Community Foundation, that awards a lot of grants, some of which are applied for by Greg, but also applied for different people and different organizations. And I'm told it was a record year for the amount of grants given out locally, Aaron.
Yeah, it was a record year by a lot. The Waupaca Area Community Foundation is a committee off of the Fox Valley Area Community Foundation, or Fox Cities. And they do unbelievable work in the community. They've been giving for a number of years, I think since 2003 is when the Waupaca Area Community Foundation was started. Since that time, they've given over $5.5 million worth into the community to local nonprofits that serve our community and help keep them running, help start new ones up and efforts that are needed. This year, they gave $170,000 out or over that, which is about $40,000 more than their previous highest year, which was 2018. So typically the grants are set up and they're $7,500 per grant to a number of organizations. This year, 18 area nonprofits received grants. I would say most of them received that $7,500 level of funding, which is fantastic. And this year, what they've started recently is a $25,000 community enhancement grant, so one larger grant. Well, this year there was two proposals, and they ended up saying, you know what, we like both of the proposals, we're going to fund both of them. So $50,000 in large grants. Can't say enough about the work that they do in the community, the quality of life they help provide everyone here, and just wanted to make sure that we kind of had a chance to educate people on the efforts that are happening around that group.
I guess I didn't clarify if it was part of the specific grant process or not, but one project funded by the Community Foundation is the Inspire Coordinator. That's a collaborative effort across the county. And I'll let Ron talk a little bit about that. That has a lot to do with the schools.
Yeah, this has been in the works since pre-COVID, actually. And now that we're out of COVID and moving forward, we've kind of pursued this a little bit more. And yeah, we as the school districts in Waupaca County, in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce's in our county, and also the Waupaca County Economic Development Organization, together have partnered, wrote this grant. Fortunate and thankful that we received it from the Community Foundation, and it allowed us to hire a person to run our Inspire program. And Inspire, it's a CTE college or career technical education type of a focus, where this individual works with our school districts and connects our students that are interested in certain career paths to a business that's aligned and has those types of jobs. So we're excited that that's starting. We selected an individual, Beth Nash, who happens to be from Waupaca community here, and she is our new Inspire coordinator, and has just came on board and started, I think it was like last week, and is getting her feet wet here by meeting with a variety of people and getting some training, and is going to start focusing this year on the school district of Waupaca, Clintonville, and the New London communities, and then expand it into the other schools in our school districts in our county in future years.
Cool. We'll go to more of a serious topic. It's budget time for the city. And Aaron, I know you want to talk a little bit about the budget and how some of that aspect works for local government.
Yeah, so thanks, Josh, for the opportunity to talk about this. We've worked through a couple budget workshops. One was our capital improvement budget workshop. That was back in August, and then early September this month, we talked about our TIF and our transit funds, which is Waupaca Taxi, which actually we should talk about that specifically and just give an educational session on what that service is in the future. But we're moving on to personnel next, and then we'll talk about having a first look at our total budget. Our department heads are putting together worksheets and such. And typically we pass the budget sometime in November. One thing I wanted to talk about was just to provide a little bit of insight into some of the constraints that we have when we're working through this. Each municipality has the same. We're not alone, but how levy limits factor into how we set these budgets. So everyone knows that we've been in some pretty high inflationary periods here over the last several months and over a year.
It's expensive to buy stuff.
It's expensive to buy stuff. It
can't
is.
stretch that budget as far.
You can't. So whether it's large projects, whether it's supplies, whether it's paying personnel, all of these things, we have constraints as to we can only get so much more operating dollars per year. And that's because of Wisconsin state levy limits. And there are certainly, there's been a lot of positives that have come from those. The reality is that there's a challenge when you're trying to operate a city under those. And the way that works is, and you've heard me talk about it before on here, is it's tied to net new construction. So it really incentivizes communities to grow and to continue to have added value with new construction in their municipalities. Typically, in a good year, communities would be anywhere from 2 to 3%. Somebody that's not maybe like a Sun Prairie or a Wanik, somebody that's growing on the outskirts of a large metropolitan area. But for us in more rural Wisconsin, 2 to 3% is really good. Well, that may only amount to an additional, $45,000 to $70,000 a year. Other municipalities, neighboring ones, I won't mention names, but I know, maybe haven't had as much net new construction, and they're looking at only an additional $14,000. So when you look at having, 60 plus full-time employees, when you look at completing all the projects that have to happen on a year-to-year basis, that doesn't go very far. And councils, and specifically our city council and our staff, have done a great job over a long period of time, kind of tightening the belt and saying, how can we do things more efficiently? And there's been a ton of great efforts over the last several years and decade where they've done that. And we haven't really lost services. We've been able to maintain, even though this is in place. The other big piece of our funding formula, besides the local property taxes and the net new construction that's tied to that, is shared funding through the state. And those formulas have, over 30 to 40 years, have been flat and a little bit decreasing over time. So when you take into account maybe only going anywhere from 0 to 2%, let's just say, per year from a levy limit standpoint, and then a flat to decreasing shared revenues over the course of 2 to 3 to 4 decades, that just gives you an idea of kind of the conversations we have to have when we go through the budget process. So anyway, just a little, it's not something that people worry about probably or think about, but just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about kind of how our revenues and funding works.
A lot to it. We'll jump over to Ron. We've talked about this before on some previous updates, but we just want to keep people informed, or if there's someone new watching on this update, there's going to be a referendum question this November to get the school district some money for some school security updates, and it's specifically for one project. So just kind of remind us and update us what that's all about.
Yeah, this is coming off of a Department of Justice audit, as well as Wisconsin School Safety Coordinator Association audit. They both organizations recommended a variety of things. One of them, which is this project, is having single secure entrances at each of the 4 buildings, which means an individual would get buzzed into 2 separate vestibules before being allowed into the building. And a lot of the newer buildings that have been created, schools across the country have this. It's the best practice. And when our schools were built, there was no need for it. It was a different environment, a different time frame. But so we're looking at doing this for the safety and security of our students and staff. And we've got flyers out there. We've got brochures. We've got several meetings. There's a meeting coming up tonight, which would be Wednesday, September 14th at the high school in the Commons. Then we have another one coming up. Let's see, that is another one coming up on October 13th, a community meeting at the high school Commons as well. But we're asking for 3.8 million, and it would be over a 10-year period. And 50% of this is would be funded through the state and additional state aid that we would get. So over this 10-year loan, we would get half of it paid off through the state, sending increased aid to our school district. Right now, it's projected it's an 11 cent on 1,000, which means on $100,000 piece of property, taxes would be $11 for this project. On a 300,000 piece of property, it would be a $33 per year tax for this project. So we're hopeful that we can get the word out to the community so they know what they're voting for. If they're voting yes, what they're getting. If they're voting no, what they're saying no to. I don't know if you've heard anything out there, Josh.
We've talked a lot about other safety measures the school has taken. I know last time we talked about switching up the parking at the high school, and I know we just want to be clear, the referendum is specifically for the single point of entry, and all of your other school security projects are paid for separately from this, and just so the community knows that.
Yeah, exactly. That's coming through our budget. We've budgeted to do the parking lot changes if this referendum were to pass, as well as additional cameras and alarms and other security infrastructure pieces that we're going to pay for out of our own budget.
Well, appreciate the update. And I know we'll probably talk about this one more time before we hit that November election, so people are informed and know what's going on when they get to the polling place.
Thanks, Josh.
And then the last thing we'll talk about, all in-city residents and businesses got this nice 2022 calendar in the mail last year, and we're getting the one for 2023 ready. It's got just information about the city and different permits and all sorts of different things you know about, and major city events throughout it. And you're kind of seeing some pretty nice pictures as I flipped through this, and all these pictures were submitted by area residents, and we are doing a photo contest again to populate next year's calendar, and entries are due by next week Friday. If you go to cityofwaupaca.org, you can submit one or multiple pictures, and all the information's online about kind of the stipulations on it. They should be a picture from Waupaca, things like that. And city staff and elected officials will view the pictures and vote. Top voted picture ends up on the cover and gets a $50 chamber gift card, and the rest gets seen by everyone in the community. So when that calendar gets mailed out. So if you've got some cool Waupaca pictures, get those to us, and love to check them out as we wrap up getting next year's calendar ready.
Hey, Josh, is the name of the individual that submitted the picture in the calendar for that picture?
So that's one of the questions when they submit, they're asked if they want credit or not. Most of the people last year did want credit, and we put that with them. There were a couple that didn't want their name with it, so we'll respect whatever their wish is on that.
Cool.
So that's I think it for this week's update. Ron, Aaron, appreciate the time to get the community up to date.